This video brought to you in part by these fantastic sponsors.
Hey guys, what is up and welcome to the channel. I was just about to go back to sleep, woke up because I needed something to drink, and boom, lo and behold, some dev notes from the KR team. Now, I have been very, not happy with the decisions that they're making about a lot of the Moonlight stuff, a lot of the nerfs, a lot of the balance, if you will. Mostly, I think that really what they need to do to balance their game is work on gear. Gear is the biggest thing, not really some of these characters. But I do like the fact that they are buffing some of these characters that a lot of people seem to be, very mediocre, like Lucca here, obviously. But let's take a look at what they have. Now, they are going to... This is going to be scheduled for August 8th. Now, they're going to be informing us of the changes to the summon system, certain Moonlight hero changes, memory imprint improvements, which I'm interested to see what that is, and skill renewals by the end of July. There's not much of July left, so they probably should hurry up on that one. So we're focusing on two areas when it comes to hero balancing. First, we are searching for a solution to the meta freeze due to some overpowered Moonlight heroes. We are deliberately going through internal steps to increase the diversity of heroes in the meta and are trying out our best to have it revised as fast as possible. Now, the one thing that a lot of people don't really understand, especially those who don't play a lot of PvP games, maybe this is your first gacha game, there is always going to be a meta team. Regardless of what they do, what they change, there is going to be one cancer comp that you're literally always going to see. Whether they nerf whatever, you're literally going to see this all in Legend 1. That's pretty much how it's gonna go. So a lot of these changes, I mean, it's good for like lower level PvP and PvE and stuff like that, but yeah, there's never going to be meta diversity, especially on defense teams. On offensive teams, there's tons of diversity. On defensive teams, it's literally going to be the most optimal, best team that's going to be ran by whales. You will never get away from that. So with that said, let's get into this. Let's see. Also, a thorough verification process will be added to prevent this situation from occurring again. Again, you are never going to be able to stop that. Secondly, underperforming heroes will be regularly rebalanced. Before the balance patch we had in June, we promised to have regular hero rebalancing every 6 to 8 weeks. We hope this upcoming balance patch gives you a better experience in growing heroes and creating your own strategies and tactics. The one problem that they have when they're balancing heroes is that they over-tune heroes, like literally Corvus. Corvus went from being pretty much Garbo to a one-man killing machine. With the right gear, Corvus just literally solos cancer comps that everybody complains about in PvP. So let's look at Lucca first. Lucca was initially designed as a mage who's beneficial when used in long battles due to the fact that her skill, Wave of Vengeance, increases damage dealt. However, her other skills ended up being ineffective due to the high dependence on skill Wave of Vengeance. Therefore, we made skill adjustments while maintaining the original concept of a mage who is beneficial when used in long battles. The skill Wave of Vengeance now increases attack instead of damage dealt. This in turn influences damage of the skill, Wild Wave, and the barrier granted by Rico's Blessing. Not only does the skill Wave of Vengeance get stronger the more it's used, but Lucca gets stronger as well. In addition, a defense decrease feature has been added for the skill Wild Wave. We have changed the design so that it works in a defense decrease role by increasing the defense decrease probability of the skill Wave of Vengeance before its attack increase stacks. So, previously, attack all enemies with the power of Ruin with a 75% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. Damage dealt increases every time using the skill and can stack up to 3 times. Now, it is going to be attacks all enemies with the power of Ruin with an 85% chance to decrease defense. Casters caster's attack increases every time this skill is used and can stack up to 3 times. Wild Wave previously was attack with intense elemental force. Damage dealt increases proportional to the amount of enemies' health lost. Now attacks with intense elemental force with a 50% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. Damage dealt increases proportional to the amount of enemies' lost health. Now, one of the things that I always thought that they would have done is, like, to optimize with the enemies' lost health is, like, start it earlier. Like, it starts, I think, at, like, 50. Like, it scales all the way down to, like, 0. That's where you get your most optimal. If they made it ramp up to, like, where it was capped out at, like, say, 25%, or like 30-45%, so you're getting like a much more optimal like amount of increase, that would be much better. Although, I mean, this is pretty good. 50% chance to defense break on her S1 and an 85% on her S3. The S3 is going to increase the attack overall. I think that this is going to be good. We're going to have to see just how much it increases her DPS, but definitely having the 85% chance on her S3 and the 50% chance on her S1 is going to make her a very viable defense breaker. Now, let's talk about Ball and Sezin. Literally the character that, like, nobody wants to see spook them at all. So, Dark Cloud, damage increased by 30%, damage dealt proportional to debuffs increased by 50%, Last Requiem, cooldowns decreased by 2 turns. Previously it was 5 turns, now it's going to be 3 turns. Ball and Sezin is a mage who inflicts various debuffs to their enemy and deals damage proportional to the number of inflicted debuffs. However, the damage of Dark Cloud, which resets the cooldown count of Last Requiem, was not strong enough, so Ball and Sezin was not preferred among players compared to many other heroes who inflict debuffs. Improvements have been made to skills which will balance the relationship between Dark Cloud and Last Requiem and the damage of Dark Cloud. The basic damage of Dark Cloud is increased by 30%, and the damage dealt proportional to debuffs is increased by 50%, so that Ball can deal more damage proportional to the number of debuffs inflicted on the enemy. The problem with this is a lot of people stack effect resist, and a lot of times debuffs are not usable in PvP or PvE because you run into things like Jewelry Council or Queen, where as soon as they get X amount of debuffs, Queen takes an extra turn and gets buffs. So I can't see him really making an appearance in PvP or really PvE at all. So unless they put in things where you're not really detrimental, the debuffs are not detrimental. So we'll see. Ugh. Ludwig. Now, I have seen people use Ludwig in the past. I personally don't, but let's see what they did. The condition for being granted invincibility was too difficult to achieve, as it required Ludwig himself to specifically kill the enemy. This condition has now been removed, and Ludwig will be granted invincibility whenever the skill is used, regardless of whether or not an enemy was killed. Also, Call of the Moon will now always penetrate defense by 20%, and by an additional 30% if Ludwig is granted invincibility, which will make the damage more effective and balanced regardless of whether or not he is granted invulnerability. So before, Moonlight Blow, attack with light with a 50% chance to stun for 1 turn. When the enemy is defeated by this attack, the caster is granted invincibility for 1 turn. Now, attack with light with a 50% chance to stun, granting invincibility to the caster for 1 turn. Now, the problem with that is, well, let's look at Call of Moon first. Attacks all enemy with Nocturne Magic, penetrating defense by 50% if the caster is invincible. A critical hit will grant the caster a barrier for 2 turns, with strength increasing proportional to the caster's attack. Now, it will attack all enemies with Nocturne Magic, penetrating defense by 20%. Penetrate defense by an additional 30% if the caster is invincible. A critical hit will grant the caster a barrier for 2 turns, with strength increasing proportional to the caster's attack. Now, you do have to follow up the next turn with Call of the Full Moon, and if you're getting hit by any sort of cleanse, anything like that, rip. This is going to not work in auto PvP defense because he will just use his S3 before he uses his S1. So it'll probably be good for PvE, stuff like that, but we'll have to see how that goes. I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting change, being invincible for an extra turn. So we'll see how Ludwig does. Tenebria. Now here's one that not a lot of people use very often. The probability of Tenebria's debuffs landing is less competitive when compared to other heroes. Therefore, we have increased the probability of success for the debuff Sleep for the skill Dark Explosion and made adjustments so that basic skills can give powerful attacks even when other skills are on their cooldown. In addition, we have changed the design of the skill Nightmare so that now it has a lower cooldown as well as an increased probability to decrease the defense of all enemies, which allows it to be used in a greater variety of situations. We'll see. Dark Explosion before attack an enemy with attack with an explosion of dark energy with a 35% chance to put them to sleep for 1 turn. When an enemy is put to sleep, the caster's combat radius is increased by 50%. Does not trigger a dual attack. Now it's going to attack with an explosion of dark energy with a 50% chance to put them to sleep. So that's a bit of a buff. 15% is not bad. Before Nightmare drops moon of yeah, you can tell it's like 3 in the morning for me. Sorry about that. Where was I at? Drops Moon of Nightmare on all enemies with a 75% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns and increase attack of the caster for 2 turns. It was on a 5-turn cooldown. Now it's going to drop that Moon on all enemies, 85% chance to decrease defense, and it's going to be on a 4-turn cooldown. So you're going to be doing it a lot faster. You're going to get another 10% chance to hit them with the defense down. So hopefully that will kind of buffer up a little bit, but I'm not really seeing it too much. Leo, now this is a character that I've never seen anybody use really at all. So the probability of triggering Sparrow Dive has been increased after using the skill Fox Hunt. Additionally, the skill Flying Raccoon had its probability to inflict stun increased. This, combined with a lower cooldown, should allow Leo to make a more threatening attacks. The thing is, though, is like I said before, a lot of people are running effect resistance, so stuns are not really super huge. Pretty much at the top tier, it's all about tanky effect resist, man. So, yeah. The other thing, too, a lot of PvE bosses can't be stunned, so Ripperinos. But before, Fox Hunt attacks with a slingshot with a 100% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns and a 30% chance to use Sparrow Dive. Now, you're still going to have that 100% chance to decrease defense, but a 50% chance to use Sparrow Dive. Flying Raccoon, I know it's Raccoon, but I'm going to call it Raccoon. Before Raccoon flies into the enemies like a bullet and attacks all of them, decreasing speed for 2 turns with a 50% chance to stun. Now it's going to be a 75% chance to stun, and it's going to be on a 4-turn cooldown. This is all enemies, so that's actually pretty good. 75% chance is pretty beefy, and 2-turn stun is yeah, that's pretty huge. Now, the one thing is it does look like they took the speed off of Flying Raccoon, the speed down anyways, and improved the stun for 25% and 2 turns. So we'll see how that goes. I could see stacking a ton of effectiveness on this boy and just boom, stunning for 2 turns, because that's huge. 2 turns definitely makes a huge, would just absolutely wreck anybody. Anybody that gets hit and that actually lands on, good luck, unless you're using a potion vial or something like that. So I could actually see Leo being pretty busted after this, especially in like mid-tier PvP where a lot of people aren't rocking like, 200 effect resist, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely somebody to look at after the changes. Roman, again, another character you don't really ever see. So Roman's skill Event Horizon was seen as an attractive but difficult to use due to the ineffectiveness of gravitation. The skill Event Horizon was also modified so that when the enemy is buffed, the caster is granted increased combat readiness, allowing them to attack more frequently. To compensate for the low effect chance of gravitation, which only had a 50% chance of decreasing combat readiness, the number of times the enemy's combat readiness can be decreased has been increased from 2 to 4. Okay, so, Graviton before was it attacked all enemies with a magic circle with a 50% chance each to decrease combat readiness by 20% twice. Now it's going to be 4 times. So, that's pretty cool. Event Horizon before shoots a powerful gravity sphere at all enemies, dispelling all buffs and increasing combat readiness of the caster by 50%. Damage dealt increases, and the enemy is afflicted with 2 poison effects for 2 turns when the enemy is buffed. That's actually pretty cool. But now shoots a powerful gravity sphere at all enemies, dispelling all buffs and increasing combat readiness of the caster by 50%. Damage dealt increases. The enemy is afflicted with 2 poison spells, 2 poison effects for 2 turns, and the caster's combat readiness is increased by an additional 30% when the enemy is buffed. So if you're stripping buffs with him, you're going to be getting 50, 60, 80% increased combat readiness. So you're just going to be like, boom, Event Horizon, Graviton, get dunked on. I can see Roman. I don't know what his speed is, but, if you have a speedy Roman and you're just like, boom, get rid of all of your immunity sets, you're pushed back, you got some poisons, now I'm just going to hit you with Graviton, push you even further back. I can see that being pretty solid. Another guy to take a look at after the buffs. Ricorous. Compared to Cheer, Flash Cut was lacking in performance, and Quick Pierce was not good enough to make up for this performance issue. We have also adjusted Quick Pierce's probability of decreasing the enemy's defense when the caster is granted a speed buff, so that Ricorous has a clearer role as a tank and support unit. Now, Captain Ricorous is going to get some changes too, but let's take a look at what Ricorous gets here. Quick Pierce before attacks with Spear, Pew Pew, with a 50% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. Now it's going to attack with a Spear with a 50% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. Effect chance increases by 50% when the caster is granted increased speed. So that's a 100% chance to decrease defense, as long as he's got a speed buff on, which is pretty awesome, actually. So let's see, Captain Ricorous. In order to enable Captain Ricorous to more effectively fulfill his role as a tank, the defense and health increase gained from rune enhancements will be increased. So we're getting an extra 15% from defense from mineral runes, and we're going to get an extra 10% health from runes on there as well. So that is going to be pretty good. He's going to be a little bit more beefier, and he's going to be quick piercing your defense down. And I know a lot of people probably have a bunch of Ricorouses anyways. So, all right, Ras. This is a surprising one. Although Ras is our protagonist, not many heirs have used him because he lacks a clearly defined role. Changes have been made to Ras's Awakening skill, which now enhances his basic skill X/. After Awakening, Dispelling buff is added to the skill effect, which will be very helpful to our heirs in the early stages of his adventure. Also, the basic version of his skill will now have the same effect as Awakened version, and the amount recovered increases proportional to the caster's max health, allowing him to survive for a longer time. These adjustments are mainly for heroes which are used for PvP, PvE content, and will be updated on August 8th, 2 weeks from now. We're very cautious about adjusting PvP-related heroes, and details will be shared on July 1st. But let's take a look at Ross up here first before I go into that stuff. The thing is, though, is like a lot of these characters I don't think are going to be used for PvP or PvE. A lot of these changes are going to be very PvP heavy, like Leo, Roman, stuff like that. So before Sword of the Air, strongly attacks all enemies with a Sword Storm, recovering health proportional to damage dealt and increasing defense of the caster for 2 turns. Damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's max health. Now, strongly attacks all enemies with a Sword Storm, recovering health and increasing defense of the caster for 2 turns. Damage dealt and amount recovered increases proportional to the max health. Basic version of the skill will now have the same effect as the awakened version. Strongly. Oh yeah, down here. Before sword, strongly attack, blah blah blah. After X/ attacks with a sword with 75% chance to dispel a buff, damage will increase proportional to the caster's max health. Alright, so that's 75% chance to dispel a buff. Super good. Again, though, like the Lucca, absolutely PvE. Ludwig, I can see in PvP. Leo and Roman, I can definitely see people making work in PvP, especially Leo. Super fast. S3 Leo, you better be bringing your immunity sets to that one, or you're just going to get mad stunned. So here's the thing with this one now. So let's see. We're very cautious about adjusting PvP-related heroes. We're going to be putting those details will be shared on July 31st, along with future balancing plans and policies. Adjustment of heroes, especially with the nerfing of heroes, will be long enough as to receive feedback from heirs, but buffs will be updated as fast as possible. Honestly, Smilegate, unless you are talking to Legend 1 players, I don't think that you should be balancing PvP around the mid-section of PvP. Personal opinion. A lot of people that I see that are upset about like ML Aura, ML Ball, ML Vildred, and Armin, I will give you that. Armin is a pain in the ass, but like those other 3, literal jokes. Anytime I see an ML Vildred, I'm just like, oh, easy points, because anything Baiken Karen, Judge Kisei, literally anybody with a dual attack, like a double attack, can just wipe ML Vildred off of the map. And with us having Karen out right now, there's really no excuse for you not to just build Karen and just laugh at ML Vildreds. Ball and Sezin, again, as long as you can go first, probably not really a big problem, because you could just double attack. Baiken takes care of him pretty easy. As long as you do some damage to him, he'll just use his S3 instead of his S2, which gives you a whole turn to pretty much wipe everything out. ML Aura, again, immunity sets. ML Rin, pretty much effect resist, just kind of makes her a complete joke. So those 3, yeah, ML Armin, definitely pretty rough. Although, like, as long as you just can strip buffs and push her back, usually that's a pretty good solid strat. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I really think that Smilegate needs to figure out who exactly that they need to listen to, because realistically, if they nerf a lot of these heroes for like mid-range players, it's just gonna make Legend 1 more cancerous. So you're just gonna, and then people are gonna complain about that. I don't think anybody's ever going to be happy about how PvP is, and you're always going to have meta heroes. The buffs for Basara, Yufine, Lilbet, Lidika, and ML Kali are going to be pretty cool. I really want to use Lidika more often, so really looking forward to that. Heroes that are expected to be nerfed will be adjusted on an optimum level to prevent those heroes from being ineffective. Compensation and exchange-related information will also be announced when the details are settled. Players will be able to exchange for a Moonlight hero of an equivalent star grade if a Moonlight hero they own is nerfed. We will also take into account the memory imprint level. Now, the problem that I have with that is that whatever you nerf, literally everybody's just going to pick the next most powerful Moonlight hero, and then you're going to have to nerf that one. They're just going to move like, okay, well, everybody's going to pick ML Ken now, and that's going to just shift the meta back to ML Ken builds, or Judge Kisei builds, or Maid Chloe builds, or Rule of Light builds. I don't see Rule of Light in here, which is, you know, C-Arm and Rule, Maid Chloe's kind of garbage to go up against as well. So the compensation is really tough, guys, because a lot of people put a lot of money into this, and like just being like, oh, here, take this other Moonlight character is kind of a dumb stance to take, in my opinion. Buff other heroes up to the same level. Like, don't nerf characters that people put a bunch of money into. So yeah, but I'm not in charge of any of this, and Smilegate doesn't actually talk to any of the global people. They just worry about what Korea says. So yikes. So there you go, guys. There are all the changes. I'm really looking forward. The more I think about it, the more I'm really looking forward to the Lucca and Leo changes, as well as Roman. Those are the three that I'm like definitely peeping. I might actually just six star Leo. Lucca is already 6-star for me, and probably 6-star Leo and maybe Roman. We'll see how many dogs that I have. But anyways, guys, let me know what you're excited for down there, and yeah, let me know what you guys think about those Moonlight changes that they're going to be doing. But anyways, if you did like this, you did find this helpful, smash that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, drop me a like and a comment, and share this video out. YouTube is doing a really bad job at like recommending and getting a lot of content creators videos out there, because we're independent content creators. So if you do like this and you do want to help out the channel, just share this video wherever you guys think it would do well. And yeah, just thank you for everything that you guys do. I will catch you next time, though. Take it easy. Peace.